developing nuclear weapons and wants to destroy Israel and must be stopped, even if it means a military attack. And I'm not the only person who thinks it sounds very much like the lies that we were told before the Iraq War. Now, here's a more recent news story from the Herald Scotland, newspaper from Scotland, published on March 14th. Hundreds of powerful U.S. bunker buster bombs are being shipped from California to the British island of Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean in preparation for a possible attack on Iran. The Sunday Herald can reveal that the U.S. government signed a contract in January to transport 10 ammunition containers to the island. According to a cargo manifest from the U.S. Navy, this includes 387 blue bombs used for blasting hardened or underground structures. And then further down, it says, I missed that quote. Well, it goes on to say that there was intimations of this before, but now it's been confirmed because it's posted on an international website by the U.S. Navy. Bunker busting bombs. That's to get at the underground facilities that the U.S. says Iran is using to develop nuclear weapons. So and this is not being publicized generally. This was not something that came out in order to scare Iran and to keep it in line. This was something they did sort of under the radar, which makes it more ominous. U.S. beefs up defenses near Iran. Los Angeles Times, January 31st. The Obama administration has increased the U.S. military presence near Iran and is accelerating an installation of anti-missile systems in nearby countries, officials said Saturday, as the White House builds pressure for stern new sanctions against Iran. New air defense systems are being delivered to Persian Gulf countries, and specially equipped cruisers, a linchpin of the U.S. missile defense system, are being deployed in the waters of the Persian Gulf. That's the Aegis cruise missiles that they're now putting in the Persian Gulf. One of those ships was the type that shot down the Iranian Airbus in 1988, killing almost 300 civilian men, women, and children. In an incident that the U.S. called a mistake, it was under Ronald Reagan, and then gave medals to the captain of the ship and the top officers. Never apologized and never made restitution. Here's a quote from John Bolton. He used to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, and he's a member in good standing of the neoconservative, neocon club of political observers, pundits, agents, operatives in the United States. He says, those who oppose Iran acquiring nuclear weapons are left in the near term with only the option of targeted military force against its weapons facilities. Okay, so things are looking a little serious. There was this kind of a surge in threats against Iran that came up just before we made our trip to Iran, and then again in 2008 when we decided to write the book, put all that information together in one place. So the basic charges against Iran that are promulgated by the United States government and picked up and repeated endlessly by the mass media are that, number one, Iran is a country that is run by a bunch of really crazy people who cannot be trusted to act as other countries' leaderships act, that they're fanatical, they're maniacal, they're diabolical, they don't care if they live or die. And they can't be trusted with any type of military threat in the area. Number two, that Iran is developing a nuclear weapon, or developing the capacity to produce nuclear weapons. That Iran has a program to develop nuclear power that they want to use to power nuclear plants to produce energy. But the United States charges that, in effect, that's just a cover for developing nuclear weapons. Further, that the president of Iran, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has threatened to destroy Israel, has denied the Holocaust, has threatened neighbors, supports terrorism, and that Iran is not responsive to dialogue, discussion, or sanctions, and therefore the window of opportunity of stopping a possible World War III is narrowing, and Iran must be stopped. think that's about it. There is no proof at all by anyone in the world that Iran is developing nuclear weapons. Zero. Not from the United States intelligence services, which in 2007 issued a report, a national intelligence estimate, which stated that their best guess was that Iran was not developing nuclear weapons. They said they didn't know if Iran wanted to. Well, I don't know if they want to either. I don't know what a lot of people are planning on doing. But they said there is no reason to think they're developing nuclear weapons. And the next day, George Bush gave a press conference in which a reporter asked him about that, and he said, I believe Iran was a threat yesterday, and I believe Iran is a threat today. And the reporter said, Mr. President, don't you feel a little funny standing up there telling people, you know, that Iran is a threat when your national intelligence agencies say that they're not? Doesn't that bother you? And Bush said, no, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good today. It didn't matter. It didn't matter what they said. And the national intelligence community, which, if you want to call it that, which in the United States, which is made up of 16 separate intelligence agencies. I didn't know we had 16 until this report came out. But they haven't repudiated that estimate till today. There is no proof. Now, Iran does have a program to develop nuclear power. That's right. It's situated in primarily in Natanz, which I happened to drive past as we were going through Iran. We didn't think, you know, we specifically said we didn't want to go anywhere near Iran, Natanz, because we didn't want to raise any questions on anybody's mind about what we were doing there. And it turned out we just drove down the highway past the Natanz facility. Most of it's underground, but there's buildings there, and you can see a few anti-aircraft positions around, but, you know, not much. It's more, you know, just deserted than anything else. But as I said, most of it's supposed to be on the ground. It does have this program. Now, is that something bad? Well, no. First of all, I should say I don't support nuclear power, period. And the reason is because there's no safe way to dispose of the fuel. What they call the spent, you know, you put the fuel in these rods, and then when they finish their life usefulness, they're still radioactive, and you have to get rid of them somewhere. And these spent fuel rods are going to be radioactive for the next 100 years, and there's no safe place to put them. So I don't support nuclear power. However, if France can get 80% of its present energy needs met by nuclear power plants, and the world can get 13% of its energy needs met by nuclear power plants, and the United States can use nuclear power plants, and if President Obama can just come out and say he's authorizing the opening of the first nuclear power plant in 30 years since the disaster at 3 Mile Island, how can you tell another country they can't have a nuclear power plant? How can we do that? Who left and, you know, made you God? Thank you. In the 60s, the United Nations came up with a treaty to try to discourage nuclear proliferation, nuclear weapon proliferation. And eventually, most of the countries in the world signed it. It's called the Non-Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, shortened to the NPT. And according to this treaty, which Iran signed in the 60s under the Shah, it was one of the first countries to sign the treaty. According to this treaty, if you do not